All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, the 1 year mindset to create a mentally, emotionally, and sexually intimate marriage. So, this is something I've been talking a lot with the guys in my program about, and it just is really helpful, especially now with the new year. It's good to take this approach, this 1 year mindset. So, we'll explain what that means. In the podcast today. But my name is Mike Frazier. I'm a psychiatrist and a marriage coach, and I help high achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So some wins from the week from guys in my program. Guys are feeling super empowered over pornography, some for the first time in years, maybe ever. Guys have tried different stuff. So as part of my program, you get a course on pornography that helps you to overcome that. Guys are going from near separation or divorce to enjoying Christmas, enjoying conversations together, giving meaningful gifts to each other. Super cool. Expressing empathy and compassion in difficult circumstances where before, guys would have taken it really hard if their wife said something a certain way. They're able to understand that at a deeper level, still respect themselves, but not like fire back or lose their temper or things like that, but really get into empathy and compassion instead. Super powerful. Being able to find peace and joy and connection even after infidelity. This is huge. Guys are doing it. They're doing it in the program. Going from broken trust to outstanding intimacy, mental, emotional, and sexual intimacy. From feeling super resentful to feeling super connected. Like, you can do it. So increased leadership in asking for what guys want. A lot of times guys will have a little bit of trouble asking for what they want from their wife. Instead, they'll just complain. And a lot of times just to themselves, right? Instead of being clear on what they want and asking with a plan to accomplish it. So guys are doing that. They're making that progress and feeling stronger and being more attractive because of it. For my wife and I, increased mental emotional intimacy as I've shared my concerns, like some difficult emotions. Like, I was kind of feeling down the past while, and I was able to share that with my wife just last night, and was really a powerful experience. Like, I feel so much better today and like more connected with her, and just really, really good stuff. So here's what might be going on for you right now, right? So you're making changes. You're listening to this podcast, you're reading books, you're doing stuff to improve yourself, which is great, right? And so maybe you're even part of the program. You're listening, you're part of the program, right? And so when you do this, right, when you learn stuff, you start implementing it, you start feeling better pretty quickly. Especially if you're in the program, you feel better very fast because we learn how to do that, how to control your thoughts and emotions better, okay? You get more aligned with God, you feel stronger, you're in better control of your thoughts and emotions, you just feel good, okay? And so here's what happens though, is your wife is, depending on your situation, right? So guys come in kind of three main situations. One is their marriage is like okay, but they want more intimacy. They feel kind of codependent. They feel like they're sort of stuck in their marriage. This is more kind of my experience where you just feel like you're doing everything right, but you're not getting back what you want. You're not getting attention, appreciation, affection, sex. You feel like you're like living what God wants you to live, but still you're not getting the type of marriage that you want. It seems unfair. Okay. So guys in that situation have improvement really very fast. So the main program I do, it's 90 days. And if guys come in with that, they are able to turn that around really fast because it's mainly an attitude problem on your side. And so once you shift that up, wives are still suspicious, but it tends to turn around pretty quick when that's the case. Okay. But here's the thing, right? Even then, like, it's not immediate. You make that change day 3, right? It takes like day 30, day 45 of the 90 days until she's like convinced that this is actually different, because you're seeing her every day, you're interacting every day, and it's super positive. Okay. Guys come in, but again, she's still wondering if this is going to last, right? But there's enough goodwill there that it kind of goes a little faster, right? Versus a guy who comes in with infidelity, okay, they can still turn around in the 90 days, especially if they've done some work beforehand. But look, your wife's going to be more suspicious there, right? There's more trust to rebuild after something like that. Guys that come in that are near separation or near divorce, okay, the 90 days sometimes is enough, but typically it's not, right? Because if they've gone that far, your wife is really on that place of like really being set that you are a problem, right? That you are going to have a hard time changing. Okay. And so it's going to take a longer time period to really prove that things are shifting. Okay. So, but again, whatever your situation is, your wife is hopeful, right? Because she's seen some good changes, but she's also suspicious about it, right? You've made changes before that have not lasted. That's true no matter what situation you're in. Even if your marriage is good, like you've made promises that have not lasted or made changes that have not lasted. Okay. So she has reason to be suspicious that your changes are going to last. So what's her response? Okay. So you feel good, right? You're making the changes, you're happy, you're feeling that your mosquito is gone, right? Um, but then, okay, you're doing these things, you feel these changes. Your wife gives you no feedback, or she even gives you negative feedback. Okay. This is usually what happens. All right. And it's smart of her to do this because, again, it's the best way to determine if you are genuine about your changes or not, or if it's just about winning her back. Because if it's all about winning her back, what happens when she comes back? You stop changing, right? So, and that's just very unattractive, right? If it's all about getting her back, man, like, again, your motivation is gone when she does come back, but also it's just not strong, right? It's not trying, oh, I'll do anything to get you back. It's not That's not what she wants. She doesn't want a guy who's desperate. She wants a guy who is a man who is proud of himself, who has his emotions under control, who knows how to control his thoughts and emotions, who's trustworthy, who keeps his word, who is a man on a mission, who knows what he wants in life. He's going after it, who knows how to communicate well. Okay, that's what she's looking for, right? Not a guy that's like, oh, please, please come back. Okay. So again, you're making these changes, but your wife's going to give you little or even negative feedback. Okay. So and she's testing if your why is to win her back or is it to become a more Christ-like man. If you're a Christian man, like if that's the goal, your wife's reaction doesn't really matter, right? Your goal is to be a more Christ-like man, and you're going to use this program as a way to do that, to connect with God, to manage your thoughts and emotions better, to be that example that you want to be. Okay. So again, your wife is suspicious in some ways, right? She's cautious, right? She's testing out your real intentions behind doing a program like this or reading books or doing stuff like that. Okay. So she's cautious. She's giving you no or little or no feedback. But also, even if she's believing it, she actually needs some time to adjust to the new you. Okay. Sometimes your new attitude just kind of throws her off. She's like, man, what's going on here? Right. And so even if she's not giving you no or negative feedback, to kind of test you, she might just be surprised, right? It's almost like you guys are used to doing a certain dance in your marriage. And then all of a sudden, instead of dancing a waltz, you start dancing hip hop, right? And your wife's like, whoa, what just happened? And maybe she really likes hip hop, but it's just weird, right? It's a change and she has to learn a new way to interact with the new you. So it's just kind of an adjustment period for her. And this happened with all the guys that have gone through the program. Their wife goes through this sort of adjustment period. Okay. Now, depending on your wife, right? Some wives are very motivated to change themselves as well, right? I get emails from wives like, man, working with wives who their husband started the program and they've kind of come in later and we're doing some couples work that are just really motivated. They're like, man, I've seen really positive changes. I want that for myself. Okay. So, but again, there's sort of this period where it's not like that. Okay. She's not immediately jumping into, oh yeah, wow, this is amazing. She has to get used to it. Okay. And she has to test if it's for real or not. Okay. Some take a more kind of standoffish approach. Again, so some wives will respond with like, man, wow, he's doing so well. I'm going to change myself too. And this is the ideal, right? Others take a more kind of standoffish approach. And again, if you're in one of those more serious situations, you can expect more of this. Okay. Um, infidelity or near separation or divorce, right? Expect her to be more standoffish. Okay. Because it's more of like, okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Let me actually see if you're going to stay consistent with this stuff. Because, yeah, the changes are good, but how am I, like, you've broken my trust so many times. I don't know if this is for real, right? And some decide, hey, these changes they're going to be better for your next wife, right? It's just too late. And, that does happen. It's sad when that happens, but it's sad in the short term because when you become a man who is strong, who is spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually strong, manages thoughts and emotions, knows how to communicate really well, knows how to bring fun and flirting and passion to a relationship, you are going to create a great marriage down the line, right? And you're going to have a great relationship with your wife, especially if you have kids, right? You want that relationship to be positive. So, look, Most of the guys when they come in, that's not what they're looking for. Pretty much none of the guys when they come in, that's not what they're looking for. Does happen at times, especially if you're at that, hey, my wife is filed for divorce. I have guys that come in there, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It has happened. Guys have turned it around. It's just less likely at that point because your wife has kind of made that decision and she's filed for divorce. And, so it might go that way. But either way, especially if you have kids, you want a good relationship. So you need to learn these skills anyway. And you want to be a good example to your kids anyway. And by the way, when you commit to that anyway, no matter what your wife does, you're actually more likely to attract her back to you. Okay. So coming back to the beginning, right? So you start making these changes, like, oh man, new year, I'm gonna commit, I'm gonna do Mike's program, I'm gonna read books, I'm gonna really become this guy, right? And you start feeling good, okay? But what can happen is you start being impatient with your wife, right? You want her to change. You want her to accept the new you quickly. You're like, no, I'm a new man now, right? And so you start kind of losing patience, especially if you learn these tools and she doesn't want to. Okay, you can start being like, well, fine then, like just I'm out of here, right? Guys can decide, well, I don't even want to be part of this marriage anymore. So here's what you got to remember though: you've had years of negative behavior. Most of the guys I work with, they've been some come in earlier, but I'd say on average, guys that come into the program, they've been married at least 10 years, some 20, 30 years. So you've had 10, 15, 20, 30 years of negative behavior um, to make up for. Even if it's only been like a couple years, like you've had these negative things that you need to overcome. Okay, so if you've done a program, like you've done my program for 30 days and your wife's not, you jumping into bed with you and like super excited to have sex with you, like don't be surprised because you've had so much time of negative behavior. Okay, she wants to see that these changes are for real. It's going to take more time than that. Okay, so just remember, it's reasonable to think it's going to take time to prove that you are genuinely different. It takes time to rebuild trust, one brick at a time, one promise made and kept, one interaction at a time that's positive instead of negative, one time when you control your temper instead of losing your temper, one time when you don't turn to pornography, but you turn to a healthy way to deal with your emotions. It takes time. Okay. One time when you actually listen to your wife instead of ignoring her, one time when you actually follow through with a commitment instead of saying, I forgot. Okay. So that has to be built over time. Okay. So this is where the 1 year mindset comes into play. Commit to 1 year of consistent change. Okay. Before you start saying, oh, well, my wife, forget her, or, she needs to learn this or I'm done. No, commit to a year of being the guy that you want to be. And then at that point, if your wife doesn't want to come along with you to grow and become a better person, then maybe it is time to consider, okay, like, do I want to stay in this marriage or not? And there's ways to go about that as well. Okay. Ways that you want to do that so you're still in line with your highest values. Okay. So here's why the 1 year mindset works. Okay. It's not indefinite, because if you're like, well, I'm going to just stay in it forever and, no matter what, sometimes that's hard. Sometimes guys will choose that. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, to say, no, I'm committed to this marriage and like, I'm going to improve myself, but no matter what, I'm staying with my wife and like I'm, working this forever to improve myself. The other thing that happens though, if you say I'm working this forever, it just feels kind of overwhelming, right? You're like, yeah, man, forever I have to work on that. So 1 year just is reasonable, right? And 90 days is the time it takes to really build a habit. It's like 21 to 60 days to build a habit. 90 days, that should be like really in place. But then 1 year of consistent behavior to really make a decision of whether, okay, like, is this really making a difference or not? Or are we, am I really going to want to stay in this marriage or not? Right. So it redirects your brain to a place of patience instead of impatience, right? So you've done this for 30 days, you're like, oh, my wife's not coming along. No, like, be consistent, man. Like, be consistent for a year first. Reminds you that you're rebuilding trust, right? It's been years of negative. You need at least a year of positive behavior before you can expect your wife to think this is for real. Okay. It also gives you time to let her have whatever reaction she's going to have. Remember, it catches her off guard. You're doing a new dance. She has to get used to it and decide if she wants to come dance with you or not, right? And it allows you time to make the decision whether to continue the marriage or not. Some guys, they will jump the gun on this and they'll just be like, oh no, like it's over and she did this. And now I think the exception to that is if you like find out your wife's been unfaithful. That has happened to guys in the program. They've come through it. They've found out kind of through the course and decided not to continue. So I think that's a valid reason. Like if you get that kind of information, some guys though, they come in and their wife has been unfaithful and they're trying to work through it. Right. And that's 100% valid too, and a great thing to do. But look, you don't want to make this decision until you have built yourself into the guy that's going to attract a great woman to you. Because if you don't build these strengths and skills, you're going to repeat the same things in the future. It just will happen. You can attract someone that's at a low level of spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, sexual strength. You're going to attract someone who's at a low level of communication skill. You're going to attract someone that, can't get to like a good sexual intimacy place, or maybe you find someone who enjoys sex, but like the mental emotional connection is not there. And you eventually realize, hey, like having someone who's emotionally unstable, but sexually available actually isn't that great of a relationship. And there's no trust. So you need all of those pillars, right? Trust, communication, and sexual intimacy, all three. Okay. And you have to be strong to attract someone who's also strong in those areas. Okay. So guys, build this stuff no matter what. Commit to a year to do it. So as a review, if you decide to join the program, or even if you're already kind of implementing some of the stuff, like you feel different quickly through the principles that are in the program. Okay. And your wife, she might respond positively really quickly. Okay. It might happen. It probably won't. And it almost never happens immediately. Okay. Like 90 days, sometimes that's plenty of time to turn things around. Right. Yeah. Especially if it's more on that, things are good, but the sex isn't there, and I feel resentful about that. Like we can turn that one around quick. But if you're even recovering from infidelity tends to go pretty fast within those 90 days. If you were the one unfaithful, if your wife was unfaithful, it depends on her and what she's up to and what she's doing. But you can become more attractive for sure. And if your wife if you're separated already, again, that's going to be a longer process, typically more in that, year range, right? If she's filed for divorce, again, like you're going to have to really recover from that. Okay. So again, she might respond positively really quickly, but more likely she's going to be suspicious and give little to no feedback, especially again, if things are more severe. That's probably what's going to happen. Okay. So what should you do? What you should do is commit to 1 year of consistent change. It's really not that long in the big scheme of things. Say, look, like I want to have a great relationship, and I understand to do that, I need to learn certain things. Okay. I need to make sure that I am trustworthy. I need to make sure I'm a man who keeps my word. I make sure I'm a man who is on a mission in my life. I need to make sure I really understand how my thoughts and emotions work so I can manage them well. Okay. I need to really regain my self-confidence and sense of self. Okay. All of that's in the trust area in my mind, right? That's building strength. I need to really know how to express myself well, to ask for what I want, to get emotional and mental connection. I need to understand my wife, get really good at listening so she feels completely understood. You're probably not that good at that right now. Like you need to improve that and commit to a year of doing it. Okay. With sexual intimacy, am I really operating my sexuality in a way that is consistent with my beliefs? If not, you got to get that in line. A lot of guys I work with are having pornography as part of the problem, very common problem. Getting to where that's not an issue, right? You can get there, but again, look at it on that 1 year time frame. Okay. So again, it also allows her to have her response and allows you time to choose, hey, like, do I want to really continue this or not? But you have to build those strengths and skills first. Okay. And also just reminds you, hey man, like I spent a lot of years tanking this marriage and now I need to like be patient to rebuild it. A year is pretty minimal commitment, but again, just mentally, it's kind of nice to remind yourself of that. Okay. So here's what I recommend. Okay. Is you becoming the man that God, you, your wife, and your kids can be proud of, right? Having that be your commitment, come into the strongman system and do it, right? Come in and do it. This year, I've got, 3 ways we can work together, and you can see those on my website. And I'll be launching a version of this if you're on my email list. If you're not yet, jump on that. If you're ready to just get going right now, let's get going, right? depending on when you listen to this, it'll either be right on there on the site for you to just sign up, or you'll still need to go through a call. What I'm moving to is for my top tier program, we're going to do calls. For the other ones, we're not. Yeah, just to get more guys help, right? Get more guys enjoying their marriage, get more guys living a more Christ-like life, getting more guys that can manage their thoughts and emotions well. They're that great example to their kids, and they're really enjoying and thriving in their marriage. So if you want that to be you, come and join us. strongmenstrongmarriages.com. You're going to learn all the tools and skills from, coaching, from therapy, from, all these different areas combined with Christian gospel principles. And that's why it really can't fail, because it's based on that foundation, and then added to it these tools and skills that science and experience have proven to be effective in managing thoughts and emotions, stuff that isn't in the Bible, right? It says take every thought captive, but this gives you a practical way to apply these biblical principles. Okay. So again, strongmenstrongmarriages.com. Come join us. Love to have you there. I will see you there. All right, strongmenstrongmarriages.com. There's also links in the show notes. Stay strong, men. We'll see you next episode.